Hello, my name is Hera Zeiler. This is my fourth discussion board video submission for Dr. Carey Roberts' History 701 course. My two subjects today, my two sources from the assigned database are from Saul Cornell in A Well-Regulated Militia, the Founding Fathers and the Origins of Gun Control in America. An interesting source which does go into the ideological backgrounds of America. The second source is by a man named David C. Williams, and he writes, "The Mythic Meanings of the Second Amendment, Taming Political Violence in a Constitutional Republic." Both of these are fairly recent publications, 2003 and 2006. First, let's take a look at the Saul Cornell piece, A Well-Regulated Militia, Founding Fathers, and the Original Origins of Gun Control in America. First, Saul Cornell is a history chair at Fordham University. However, he did get his PhD from UPenn, and he does have some bragging rights for this subject because he was one of the co-authors of the amicus brief for the Heller decision. And so he does have some background into the gun debate in America. Now, he goes on to argue in his book that that the Founding Fathers did not have an individual right in mind, nor a collective right, meaning a militia. And he said it was actually a civic right. And that meant that citizens had an obligation, or at least a right, to bear arms as long as that they could participate in the well-regulated militia. And so therefore, in his idea, in his brief, it wasn't an individual right to bear arms. It was also not a group right to bear arms, just the states' rights to arm their own militias against the federal government. However, individuals could bear arms as long as they were serving in that state militia. Interesting. But moving on, there is the second one, the second source, which is by a man named David C. Williams, who is a professor of law at Indiana University, School of Law, Bloomington. He talks about how, they both agree that it was not a civic right or a group right to bear arms. They both agree that people only have the right to bear arms as long as the government says it's okay. Serving in the military, serving in the police, serving in a state militia, but not so much for individual rights. I personally disagree, and I found that in the first source, the Well-Regulated Militia, Founding Fathers by Saul Cornell, that he did have better historical background. He had a few chapters that outline the origins and the ideas behind the Second Amendment. I just didn't agree with his conclusions. Secondly, the mythic meanings of the Second Amendment, Dr. Williams, he actually says that it's not an individual right at all and that people only have a right as long as the government tells you. I again disagree. And his historical research, he's a law professor, and his historical research is very superficial. He spends most of the book, meaning pretty much all of it except for the first chapter, talking about the modern legal definition of gun rights. These are my sources. I don't know how much of it will be useful in a dissertation, though I did appreciate the first source more. They're both secondary sources. I think I'd like to go to primary. And it's also very difficult finding cultural sources for the different regional areas. That's where I am now. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and have a good day.